Welcome to Daily Steps from One Extraordinary Marriage, where we outline simple steps that you can take to have the ultimate marriage adventure. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. In today's show, we answer the question, how can we keep intimacy alive when a spouse is deployed overseas?
First off, thank you both for your service. We know that when a spouse is deployed, both husband and wife are serving our country in different ways, and we are immensely grateful to all of you in the One family who are in the military and for what you do for us. And this is such a great question because it truly speaks to those folks that make up the One family, right? The reason that people tune into Daily Steps every week, the reason that you're here is because you have the desire to make your marriage extraordinary, right? And so it's looking at what are the unique circumstances that you can now take the next step with. And, obviously he is deployed, but even before you go on deployment, there's a conversation that starts with, what are the two of you comfortable with? How do the two of you flirt with the technology that you have now? I mean, I know it's not the same thing, but years ago, Tony and I were long distance. Well, actually we were, it was a variable distance because he was hiking from Mexico to Canada. And this was pre-cell phones. We had pagers, which didn't work very well. And then he had this like pocket mail kind of weird random device where he could just like send emails basically. And payphones. So similar in that, we were in this place where there wasn't a lot of regular contact. And so it was, how do you maintain that? And so what does the flirting look like? I mean, man, I wish we'd had FaceTime or Skype or any of the other technologies that are using now. How do the two of you encourage and give each other compliments? Right? What are those words? Because a lot of it is words when you're long distance, when somebody is deployed. What are those words that you long to hear? And it's really important that your spouse knows what those words are. Like, it's okay to say, I really just need to hear, I miss how beautiful you are, or, just the way your voice sounds, or your hands on me, or whatever it is. Don't use my words, use your words.
Yeah, I think it's just being able to share and express that, but knowing what that looks like for the two of you, because obviously with a spouse in the military, I think that can be a little tough in the sense of what is their surroundings. Do they have that ability? I mean, we have friends where he's a submarine guy. I forget how many guys were on that particular one, but it's close quarters. So it's a different conversation. Like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable personally, even if I had Elise on the phone, to be having sort of these conversations because I got other guys around me. It's sort of tight quarters. And yet, if I were able to write letters, that's a different way of doing things. So it's really knowing what you guys are looking for and how does that work with the situation you're in. If he's in a heavily or she's in a heavily military area, those change how you're going to be able to do it. But having the conversation prior, really taking that time, that's where we can have so much success in our marriages if we just take the time before to really lay out what we're looking and what our expectations are from both sides. Because once we know those, then we can act upon them. Hey, our sexy conversations cool? Yeah. Can we do it via FaceTime? Sure, because of where you're at, where he's at, whatever it may be. And then that allows you to do that. But if that all of a sudden comes up, and it's not in a good situation, you can feel rejected. You can feel like, wow, he or she doesn't care about me. Well, yeah, they do. The problem is that he's in a room with 3 other guys, and that doesn't bode well.
And that's where it's not just the conversations you have ahead of time, it's also the conversations during, because what we know from living in, San Diego's a very, very heavy military presence in San Diego with the Navy and the Marines. And so we know that circumstances change when folks are deployed.
That's right.
And so it's that communication. But to keep the intimacy alive, you're looking at how are the different ways that the two of you can flirt. Tony mentioned writing letters if the conversations aren't feasible. Can you send those care packages? Right, that are for, his or her eyes only. Can you, I know that Tony and I have talked in the past about scavenger hunts, right? Where you're sending, pictures of, whether it's lingerie or sexy toys or things like that to find when he or she comes back home. And it's even going so far as to start being romantic in advance of the return home. Really creating a special opportunity for those first days back so that the two of you, not only have you had this time to flirt and encourage and compliment and have the sexy conversations while he or she is gone, but also, setting aside those few days to reconnect both physically and emotionally when your person comes back. Mm-hmm. Right? Something for them to look forward to, something that brings anticipation for the two of you, because here's the thing, nothing exists in a vacuum, right? Whether we're talking about deployment, whether we're talking about reunion, whether we're talking about, the next months and years home, it's all part of your big marriage story. So how do you really foster intimacy in every season, in every situation in your marriage?
Yeah, and you gotta stay intentional, folks. You have to stay intentional. So one thing that Elisa and I lost when I did hike the Pacific Crest Trail, we weren't intentional. And so when I did come home, it was rough going. And so here are two ways that we want to share with you that can help you foster that intimacy. One while they're away and one when they get back. So one is check out our 19 questions to amazing section. You can get that at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/19 questions. These are questions that you guys can be asking each other. And what a cool way to maybe, if it is a note type of a deal, you could ask and answer those. If it's on FaceTime, you can do it that way, but you guys are learning and what's going to happen when they come home. Or the other one would be when they do come home, the top 10 ways to initiate. Because now you are learning and even talking to them of, hey, if I initiate this way, would that work or would this work? These are both on the sexual side of things, but you can get that one at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/initiate. The last one I want to share is the coffee break, and making that, if you guys are able to talk to each other each and every week, or even a couple of weeks in between, the coffee break is the best way for your emotional intimacy to grow and stay connected. And you can get that at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break. You don't need to be face-to-face at a coffee shop to do this. You can do this long distance. Do you want your question answered? Send an email to dailysteps@oneextraordinarymarriage.com and put in the subject line, Daily Steps question.